So, you want to be a gladiator? Today we step into the sandals of one of ancient Rome's most iconic figures and explore what it truly meant to live and fight as a gladiator. But being a gladiator was more than just fighting for survival. It was about fame, honour, and sometimes freedom. Let's dive in. Gladiators were the rock stars of ancient Rome, but their origins were far from glamorous. Most gladiators were slaves, prisoners of war, or criminals forced into the arena as punishment. But interestingly, some free men volunteered to fight, driven by the allure of fame, wealth, or simply the thrill of combat. Let's break it down. The majority of gladiators were acquired through conquest. Rome's expansion brought in thousands of captives, many of whom ended up in the gladiator schools. For those born into slavery, becoming a gladiator was a potential path to fame, albeit a deadly one. One of the most famous gladiators was Spartacus, a Thracian who led a massive slave revolt against Rome. Spartacus and his fellow rebels defeated Roman legions in several battles before their eventual defeat. His legacy as a symbol of resistance lives on, showing the extraordinary potential even the most oppressed individuals could reach. And then there were the free men, or octorati, who willingly signed contracts to become gladiators. Whether out of desperation, debt, or sheer ambition, they trained alongside slaves in the ludus, hoping for a chance to make a name for themselves. The training ground for gladiators was the ludus, a specialized school where they were prepared for the brutal life ahead. These schools were run by a lanista, a manager who owned the gladiators and was responsible for their training and care. Training was intense and focused on building strength, endurance, and combat skills. Gladiators practiced with wooden swords, called rudis, to avoid injury during training, but the sessions were grueling. They learned to fight in different styles, each with unique weapons and armor. Each gladiator type had its own strengths and weaknesses. The heavily armored myrmio, equipped with a gladius, short sword, and a large rectangular shield, was a powerhouse on the battlefield, using brute force to overpower his opponent. On the other hand, the retiarius, armed with a net and trident, relied on agility and strategy, aiming to entangle and then strike at his enemy from a distance. The threx, with a curved sword called a sika and a small shield, was a more balanced fighter, known for his agility and the ability to deliver quick, lethal strikes. Let's focus on the retiarius for a moment. This gladiator's training was unique. He had to master the use of the net, which required precision and timing. His armor was minimal, with only a shoulder guard, gaelerus, on his left arm, making him fast but vulnerable. The retiarius needed to be quick on his feet, using his speed to outmaneuver opponents who were often better armored. His fights were a test of skill, strategy, and nerves, as he waited for the perfect moment to throw his net and disable his opponent. Now let's talk about the main event, the games. The Colosseum was the grand stage where gladiators fought, not just for survival, but for glory. The arena was packed with tens of thousands of spectators, from common citizens to the emperor himself. Before the fights, there was a grand parade called the Pompa, where gladiators were displayed to the crowd. They marched around the arena in full armor, giving the audience a chance to size up their favorites. As they lined up before the emperor, some accounts suggest that the gladiators would shout, "Morituri te salutant," those who are about to die salute you. This phrase, though debated by historians, has come to symbolize the gladiators' acceptance of their fate and the honor they sought in the face of death. The fights themselves were brutal, often to the death. Gladiators faced each other, wild animals, or sometimes even a series of opponents in a single day. The outcome wasn't always death. The crowd or the emperor could spare a defeated gladiator's life if he fought bravely. The munera, or gladiatorial games, were just one part of the spectacles held in the Colosseum. There were also venaciones, or animal hunts, where wild beasts like lions, tigers, and elephants were hunted for the entertainment of the crowd. Sometimes, the arena was even flooded to stage naumachiae, mock naval battles where ships fought in a simulated sea. Then there were the damnatio ad bestias, where condemned criminals were thrown to wild animals as a form of execution. These events were as much about showcasing Rome's power and wealth as they were about entertaining the masses. But it wasn't all blood and violence. The games were also a form of political theatre, used by emperors to gain favour with the people. The more spectacular the games, the more popular the emperor. The legacy of the gladiators has endured through the centuries, immortalized in film, literature, and popular culture. Their stories continue to fascinate us, representing both the brutality and the grandeur of ancient Rome. From classic films like Spartacus to the blockbuster Gladiator, the image of the gladiator has become a symbol of strength, endurance, and the fight for freedom. But beyond the entertainment, the story of the gladiators reminds us of the complexities of human nature, the desire for glory, the struggle for freedom, and the spectacle of violence as a tool of power. In many ways, the gladiatorial games laid the foundation for modern sports and entertainment. The concept of combat as spectacle can be seen in everything from professional wrestling to boxing and MMA. The dramatic narratives, the larger-than-life heroes, and the intense competition, all elements that were perfected in the Roman arena, continue to captivate audiences today. So, champion. The path was perilous, the stakes were high, but for those who dared to take it, the rewards were legendary. From slaves to superstars, gladiators were a symbol of strength, endurance, and the power of the human spirit. Thank you for joining us on this journey through time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more adventures in history. Until next time.